Okay, people, I'm back. Fred White, Tales from the Pen. If you're new to the channel, please go down, hit the subscribe button, click the bell, the notification bell, and click all. This way, anytime I upload a video, you will get notifications. I do notice that a lot of people aren't getting their notifications, even though they click the bell. I'm sorry about that. There's nothing really I can do about that. Also, if you're new to my channel, my name is Fred. I'm from Queens, and I tell stories about my experience in the penitentiary. And I do it, as I always say, not in a glorification kind of way. I do it so that these kids can understand that the penitentiary is not a game. Today is a little something different. Today I'm going to tell you the story of an individual I know very well, we were cool, who actually happens to be New York's youngest ever serial/spree killer at 17. His name was Leslie Torres. Yeah, Leslie was his first name. Torres was his last name. Now, there are certain people who stand out to me over time, over all my years, where you could just look at them and look at their face and see evil. He was one of them. He was definitely one of them. The other one was the guy I told you that was raping kids on the roof. And, you know, he got dealt with. And then he got dealt with in Clinton when he was hanging out with the rat hunters. Found out he actually wasn't a rat hunter as I thought he was, but he would hang out with them. And I told you guys, you know, he got dealt with too. When you looked in their eyes, right? But especially this guy I'm going to talk about, Torres. That's what we called him. When you looked at his eyes, you saw malice. When you looked in his eyes, you saw evil. You saw death. He had like black eyes, like his eyes like black. And when he looked at you, it was just different. Like, you know, like I said, only a couple people in my whole bid where you could look in their face and just see, you know, evil. There's no other way to explain it, you know? It's just the way he was. Let me tell you a little bit about him. So, he, from the ages of when he was born till he was 7 years old, he lived in New York. His parents brought him down to Puerto Rico, and he came back up here when he was 17 years old. And he came up here, it was during the crack era. Now, anybody, you know, from the 80s, especially, you know, late 80s, mid to late 80s, they would tell you, you know, the crack era was the wild, wild west here in New York City. Like, it was bananas. Like, you know, that's when the most murders happened during that time. You know, we averaged over 2,000 murders per year, when now, like I say, it's about 300. But back then, and when I grew up, the average murder rate was over 2,000 per year. Google it. Right? So he came back up here. He got involved with certain people. He moved up to Spanish Harlem. You know what I mean? For those who don't know Spanish Harlem, or maybe as some people know it as El Barrio, right? It's like about, I think it's 96th Street to about 125th Street on the east side. And that whole area was known as Spanish Harlem. They even got a Tito Puente portrait up there. You know, that's where he grew up. A lot of people grew up in Spanish Harlem. So Torres came back and he lived with his dad, who really he had no relationship with, here in Spanish Harlem. As I said, he got involved with smoking crack. And he ended up developing a $500 a day habit. So how could he, you know, he had to feed his habit, right? So he started robbing. I'm going to read you this quick thing right here, okay? It says, a 17-year-old crack addict, Torres, was arrested by New York City police after he shot and killed a clerk in a robbery in a grocery store. Cornered on a rooftop, following a 20-minute chase, Torres was charged with killing 5 people and wounding 6 others in a series of Harlem robberies that began on New Year's Day and totaled $2,000 in cash to support his drug habit. So from January 1st to when he got knocked, January 8th, but his last murder was January 7th. So from the 1st to the 7th, he shot 11 people, killed 5 of them, and maimed 6 others. Okay? On the first day, he robbed 4 people in 6 hours. During all 4 people, he got a total of $28. Okay? Well, he tried to rob an old man who didn't want to give up his money or whatever. He had his pride, and Torres shot him twice in the head, killed him. The next day, he robbed 3 stores in 1 hour. And in that 1 hour, along that whole strip, he shot 4 people. He killed 2 of them. One of the guys he killed was a store owner, and the guy that I guess he didn't want to give it up. Torres just shot him in the head. A couple days later, he went into a supermarket, and as soon as he walked in, he walked up to where they keep the cash, and he didn't even ask questions. He just shot the guy right in the head. Bang, bang. There was a customer in the store. The guy got on his knees and prayed, please, please, I have kids. Don't shoot me. Torres turned, looked at him, bang, shot him in the eye. The guy dropped, and then what Torres did was he went back to the first guy, the owner that he shot him in the head, and then went into the register. He got $80 from that. So in total, he killed 5 people, like I said, and, maimed, shot, paralyzed. One guy went, blind. 6 others. So 11 people in less than a week. And he was labeled New York's youngest ever serial killer, spree killer. Now, my interaction with him was on Rikers Island. And he always used to say that he was the devil. Like, he used to blatantly say it. Like he sees the devil. Actually, when he went to trial on one of them, right? One of the murders and the attempt, which was the last one I just spoke about. That's the one they caught him for, and then he admitted to all the other ones. He actually testified that the crack made him do it. And he also testified that every time he looked in the mirror, he saw the devil. And I'm not going to lie to you. I believe him. 1,000%. He was different. You know what I mean? He was very different. I remember when I first met him, I didn't know all of this. I just know he had some respect. People were a little nervous of him. And I spoke about this a long time ago in one of the videos. He got into it with a dude, Shy, right? I got into it with Shy later at a later date. That's neither here nor there. So, Shy and him started beefing about something. I think it was over the TV or something like that. Torres, don't know how he got them. Don't know where they came from. Torres pulled out like scissors, but they were broken in half. So he had one in one hand, one in the other, of scissors. And while dude was sitting there in the front watching television, as we call the stupid box or the idiot box, he was sitting there and Torres jumped off the table on him. And I'll never forget his face. Like, he was like, and he, bam! And he stuck this scissors in the dude's head. Like, one was like coming out here, one was like in there, And the kid was, ran, of course, to the bubble. But I'll never forget that shit was sticking out, man. And he let it be known I'm trying to kill him. I'm not playing games. I'm trying to kill you. And that's what he was. That's definitely 1,000% what he did. Torres had nobody to call, but he had an hour of phone time, right? And as I always say, after a certain time, like say after 5 o'clock to like 11 o'clock, if you wasn't official, you wasn't down with people, you wasn't running, you couldn't get on the phone. You had to get your phone calls early, and you can only get 6 minutes. After 5 o'clock, more or less, the inmates ran the phone. Their maids ran the phone all day anyway, but from 5 o'clock on, it was called slot time. So you may have like 5 to 5:30, and at 5:30 you pass it to the man, your boy, who has 5:30 to 6. Then the next guy comes up. Torres had an hour. I think it was like from 7 to 8 or something like that. Torres had nobody to call. But what he used to do is, because he had nobody here in New York. Nobody, like everybody, he had no real family anyway. So he would never get money, never get letters, never get anything. No one had anything to do with him. But what he would do is he would charge. Like if dudes want to get on the phone, yo, you want a half hour on the phone? All right, bet. Yo, you got to give me $10 in commissary every time you go to commissary. You could have that half hour. Bet, the dude would do it, and then he would sell the other half hour. So he would get like 20, whatever it was, $25, whatever he charged in commissary every week. Rikers Island, it was every week. Upstate is every 2 weeks. So that's how he hustled, right? He took the phone. I remember when he took one of the phones. The kid, I remember, the kid's name was Duchamp, and he was sitting down, and Torres just came up and he hit him with it was a metal, wasn't a metal, it was a milk crate, like the milk crates, the black one. Dude wasn't even looking. He just hit him, bang! Smashed dude all in the head, bang! Hit him, cue off the phone, took the phone, right? And then started, charging people to use the phone. That was Torres. So like Torres was just different. Again, he had nobody, but this was his hustle. Torres was different. I remember another time we were in the Bing. We were in solitary. And him and the police got into something, right? They were arguing about something. Like the police had took his line, which the fishing line is you make out of your bed. And if you want something from like, down the cell or whatever and the port ain't around, you shoot out your fishing line. You put something on the end of it, whether it be an envelope. Some people use toothpaste, the toothpaste bottle, and you slide it under your door, and you hold the other end, and it goes all the way down to wherever, and then the next person slides his, and they get entangled, right? So then that person will tie something on. All right, go ahead, take it, and then you pull the line in, and you get a magazine, whatever it was, whatever could fit under the door. That's called fishing. The police took his line or something. Police caught him fishing, took his line, ripped it up. Torres was like, all right. I remember. And he was beef with the police. So in the morning, in the Bing, at that time, the doors were solid, and they had like mesh gate right here, small one though, where you could just look through. Very small, very narrow, long, but very narrow. Okay, but the rest of the door was solid. At that time, they didn't have feed-up slots. Feed-up slots came later, is when they put the holes in the door, so they could give you your mail, your whatever. After a while, dudes messed that up, so then they started putting flaps on those. They cut the holes in the door, then they started putting flaps, so no one could use them, You couldn't use them. You couldn't throw anything out your cell or anything like that. And when they came to feed you, they would open your slot and put it in. But at this time, they didn't have feed-up slots. So in the morning, like when you got breakfast or something like that and you was in the Bing, they'd actually open your cell one at a time. They'd open your cell, you get the food, door would close. Next cell, bam, bam, bam. So the police didn't open Torres' cell. And he was wilding in the cell, bugging, boom, 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 broke his toilet, all that shit, flooded. When he started breaking the toilet, all the water fell out on the gallery, like flooded the gallery. It was crazy. So he ended up moving to another cell. So it was about like a week or two later. He was acting fine, everything was good. The police had went to his cell. You all right? You all right? He was like, yeah, I'm good. Didn't say nothing. So the police thought everything was good. In the morning when they came for the feed up slot, to feed up his food, to give him his food, they opened the cell, and Torres jumped out. He jumped out with I'll never forget it. In the back of the windows, there used to be these little things, and he ripped them off, sharpened it, and then also he took a floor towel and broke it. And if you make the floor towel skinny like a knife, he used two and put them together and wrapped them up. So really, it's like if you hit a soft tissue like the eye, you hit the neck, maybe the stomach, it'll be out. But if you hit something hard, it most likely was going to break. But this was him. They were like weird floor tiles. You know what I'm saying? Anybody on the island remember them back in the days. So he had that in one hand, and he had a knife he made from a piece of a broken window in the back of the cell. Like I said, they used to have these little metal things. In most cells, they were already off. But in this cell, it wasn't. And you pry it, and then you take your towel and pop it off, boom, and sharpen it up. And then Torres had one in one hand, one in the other. And when the police opened the door, he went at him. Bah, bah, bah. Police is running down the stairs, hitting, bah, 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 stabbing him on his back, on, the towel thing broke, tearing his ass up. You know what I'm saying? They pulled the pin and everything. And, they came, they grabbed him up and whatever, bring him to YME pen, brought him back. And then, he ended up getting more Bing time. He was always just in the Bing because the dude was off the hook, man. I'm telling you, the dude was wild. So he ended up going to trial. And on the first trial for the first murder and the attempted murder, which is the one he went to the store, he didn't even give the owner a chance. He just went in and shot him, right? Like I said, shot him, and then went back and shot him some more and got $80 out the deal. He blew trial in 19 minutes. The jury went for 19 minutes, came back with a guilty verdict. That was like quickest ever. Like it was no need. Hey, guilty, guilty, guilty. Okay, let's go back in. Like that's how it was. There was no deliberation. He got on the stand and said crack, made him do it. But as the judge said, it doesn't matter. Just because you use drugs, that shouldn't absolve you from, what you did. And so he ended up for that case. He got 33 years. So instead of just keep going to trial on every case, 11 cases, 4 more murders because he already got convicted of one, and all the rest of the shootings he did, they just consolidated everything and he took a plea. And he ended up getting like 60 years. He got 60 to life, And even when he's done with that, he's never getting out of prison. He'll be in prison forever. He's in Clinton Correctional Facility right now. But he would never get out of prison, ever. And I tell these stories, again, not to glorify anything, right? I tell these stories so people understand, especially to you young kids. These kind of people are out there. And these are the kind of people you run into in the penitentiary. 100%. Is this how you want to live your life? You want to live your life around guys like this who don't give a fuck about you, is part of my language. Guys like that don't care nothing about you. They don't care what you are. Guys like him don't care what gang you in, what sex you claim, who you're down with. They don't care about none of that. None of that. They will kill you. And those are the kind of guys, they don't play for just razor tag or just to mark you. There's people upstate, gentlemen like Torres, who don't care about any of that. And when they're coming at you, they're not coming just to do, minimal damage. They're coming at you with the purpose to kill you. They are coming at you with that big knife or knives to kill you. And if they do have a razor, they're going for your jugular. They are trying to kill you, take you off the count. They're not playing games. And there's plenty of people like Torres, man. 1,000%. There's hundreds, thousands of people just like him that don't care none of that. Because, a lot of dudes go to jail and they fall under certain umbrellas and they think they safe. Man, listen, man. You got a bunch of neutral people up there that don't give a fuck what you represent. Don't care what you've done in the streets. Don't care what you've done in prison. They will try to kill you. And sometimes I get passionate about this because I need these kids to understand. I need these kids to watch this video and understand that there's hundreds of Torreses. Hundreds. And it's like weird to come on here and say, me and the dude was cool. That was my boy. Like, to be honest, when I first met him, I didn't know. Because back then, the internet wasn't popping. Newspaper here and there. You know what I'm saying? It was different. Nowadays, if he would have did what he did, he'd be everywhere. He'd be on news in Germany. You know what I'm saying? He'd be on the news everywhere. It was different back then. But anybody don't believe the story, just Google the name. Leslie Marion Torres. And just type in NYC killer or NYC or whatever. And it's going to pop up. 100%. The dude had no problem killing you to take your money. And in the prison, he had no problem killing you to get whatever he wanted. I've seen him rob people back in the adolescent days, take their sneakers. You know what I mean? I said one dude had a BVD shirt. And he, back in the days, any of my, 80s babies, y'all remember the BVDs, the T-shirts. And dudes used to take the T-shirts and make do-rags with them. You know what I'm saying? He went, you know what I mean? The kid had a BVD that he liked. Torres went, pulled that knife out and told him, take that shit off. Here you go. Torres was rocking that BVD every day because he ain't had shit. So if you had something that he liked, I'm telling you, he didn't give a fuck who you were. I'm telling you. And there's a lot of people like that in jail, man. To me, looking back on it now, they're called, a lot of them are called sociopaths. Even when he got found guilty of this, and he showed no emotion. He apologized and stood there stoic. Very rarely, I know many years, very rarely I've ever seen him smile. I mean, the dude was a killer, man, like a real life one. I know it was, for the crack and everything, but he had it in him. Trust me. And he tried to kill several people in the prison system. And again, this is why I do what I do. This is why I need all you kids to avoid people like him. I need all you kids to understand. There's different levels to this gangster shit that you guys talk about, man. There's different levels to this shit. There's people who do shit for a cause, and there's people who don't give a fuck about nothing and do whatever the fuck they want to do. Is these the kind of people you want to run into? No. No, you don't. Trust me. It's better to have people like that on your side, as I did. He was cool with me. We was good. But I always knew he was fucking dangerous. When he stabbed that kid in the head like that, bang! That was like one of my first instances on like seeing, like, I'd seen a few things, but that was like a next level shit. Because the shit I seen was cuttings, maybe, fight, bunch of things, robbing. But that, so, like, wow, this is really real. Like, you can die in here. Like, wow, I gotta, be more defensive, more on point. Right? And then also, the flip side of that is when you see stuff like that, and then you go on to see stuff like that in the penitentiary, you come home, and like I always say, you're different, man. You're different. PTSD is very real. Life after prison is very real. Just because you get out of prison don't mean I'm out of prison. Because sometimes I feel like I'm still in prison. I'm just not behind bars. Because of all the stuff I've seen. All the stuff I've witnessed. All the wars I've seen. All the people I've seen die. All the people I've seen cut, maimed, destroyed. Would you be normal? This is what I'm trying to avoid, man. I'm trying to give back because I've seen wars. And I don't want anybody, you kids, to go through that. I don't want kids at all to go through that. So parents, if you got teenage kids, put them in front of the video. Put them in front of Tales from the Pen and click anyone. Click any one of them. And understand what I just said. Just because I'm out of jail, I'm still not out of it. I may not be behind bars, but the stuff I've seen, I'll remember forever. Again, PTSD is real. It's real. Guys like Torres exist. There's hundreds of them. I got a lot of stories about a lot of guys like that I'll be coming out with. But these guys exist, man. That's why I'm so passionate about what I say and how I say it. Because I don't think the message is being conveyed in a proper way. Some people like to glorify their experiences. They were this, they were that. Ask them, are they, even some of these youth, ask them, are they feel that they're out of prison? No. No, they're not. A lot of people are still stuck in them ways. And I need you kids to understand that shit, man. Stay out these streets, man. That block that you holding down, don't give a fuck about you. That block that you holding down when you go to prison, guess what? Life goes on. keeps going. That basketball hoop will still be there. It's not your park. This is the type of things, man, that I need to express, man. I know sometimes, I get too passionate, and sometimes but I need people to understand me and feel me, man. Prison is not a game. It's not a joke. Stay your ass in school. Be productive in society. That's gangster. And on that note, people, you know the motto. Experience is the greatest teacher. But somebody else's experience could be just as valuable if you pay attention and listen. And on that note, Fred White, signing off.